Hello and welcome to Precontation Points video Snark. I'm continuing my sarcastic book review of The Mister by E.L. James. Got the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 21. Max races back to the house under some bizarre impression that if he doesn't hurry back to Elisa that Dante will somehow hurt her. Like, we know that Dante is in the other house, but at the same time, Max doesn't know this. It's a bizarre plot-driven device. Or as I like to call it, magical Gary Stu guessing powers. Meanwhile, we jump back to Elisa. She's obviously terrified of how they found her, and she locks herself into the bathroom. However, since the family uses the house as a rental, there's nothing in there except for some toothbrushes and Max's razor. Dante and his friends start screaming for her to come out, calling her the B word, how they're going to hurt her. But this is going in what I said about Dante having broken into Max's apartment. Why do they think that Elisa is in this specific location? They're just going to break into expensive houses and hope to find her lounging around and eating chocolates? We know that Elisa is there, but at the same time, why did they come to this specific location in Cornwall? Or is this more magical Gary Stu guessing powers? Max gets back to the house where he finds a strange car parked outside. Furthermore, he finds one of the side doors ajar, which is how they got in. He had put one of the shotguns from their skeet shooting up in a gun rack when they got him back, and he gets one of them down just as Elisa screams upstairs. We switch back to Elisa for a page. Dante and Fran break down the door, and they kick and beat Elisa while calling her a lot of unrepeatable things. But then, obviously, Max shows up with his gun. Max points the gun around and has to restrain himself from actually killing them. Although, honestly, no jury in the world would convict Max. Not after Elisa explains how they trafficked her and dozens of other girls, how they broke into now 2 of Max's houses. Oliver calls and Max asks that Elisa answer that she tell Oliver about how some people broke in and to call the police as well as those from the house. However, Danny and Jenkins come in just as Elisa is hanging up. They were worried about Max when he suddenly ran away from the house and followed after him. Max asks that Jenkins find something to restrain the 2 intruders and would-be second-time kidnappers with, and that Danny take Elisa back to the main house. We switch back to Elisa on the drive over where she becomes physically ill by the side of the road halfway there. And as Max and Jenkins are trying up the guys, they find a gun on one of them. Max explains to Jenkins that they were human trafficking Elisa and several other girls. We switch back to Elisa and Danny. They get inside and Danny offers to let Elisa have a bath. Elisa is just confused over everything when Danny refers to her mysterious lord, but she's also overwhelmed with Danny's kindness in not saying anything about how Elisa had obviously wet herself when Dante and Fran had broken down the door. We skip over Max giving his statement to the police and jump into them asking to get a report from Elisa. They're certain that Dante and Fran are going to pop up in the system and reassure Max that they'll look into the matter of a possible connection to the break-in and his flat as well. He also told a white lie that Elisa was his fiancée. Elisa sits in the bathtub and thinks about what Dante's friend had said to her, that you are Max's concubine. Yes, the book literally uses the word concubine, because we're apparently in 12th century Middle East right now. She also thinks about her bad situation back home. She knows that the situation with Dante and Fran will be resolved since they were literally caught red-handed, but she left Albania in order to have a better life, to escape the marriage her father had arranged for her. She knows that Max would be nice to her, and she does love him, but she doesn't want to be a kept woman. Danny comes to get her from the bath and is still kind to Elisa. She gives her a bruised cream and an ice pack and says that she arranged for a doctor to come and see her later, but then she mentions his lordship and accidentally drops a bomb that Max had been trying to deliver to her. Oops. Chapter 22. Elisa is in shock with the information that Max is an earl. However, she comes to the conclusion that he didn't tell her simply because she's his cleaning lady. The only other thing she was to him was a good time. And why shouldn't she think that? He's given her nothing else to go off from and went out of his way to hide this info from her. She cries for a moment over the loss of everything, really, and then decides that since this is now over, that she should just leave. With Dante and his friend arrested and probably going to be thrown in prison for a long, long time, she feels like she'll be free to return to London. Max gets back to the main house where Danny tells him that she accidentally told Elisa that he was the Earl. Max panics and goes in search of her, but obviously she's not in the room. However, the house is so big and confusing that Elisa ended up getting lost while trying to find an exit. This allows Max to find her. She says that she's leaving. Max tells her that he didn't want for her to be overwhelmed, that he wanted to keep her to himself for a little bit. Elisa cries and tells him what Dante's friend had called her, but Max says that he hadn't wanted to presume to call her his girlfriend. Max says that she's free to leave if that's what she wants. And on the surface, I'm down for him giving her the freedom to pack up and leave then and there. But then he immediately says this: "Look, I can't keep you here if you want to leave. Magda is moving to Canada, so where you go, I don't know. If nothing else, stay until you know where. But please don't go. Stay. With me." And this entire thing is just so disturbing and so wrong on so many levels. He tells her that she can remain in the pampered house with him in Cornwall, or for her to go back to London and to be homeless and clean houses and generally just be poor. Even if it is Elisa's reality, what an insanely terrible thing to say to somebody. If you don't love me, then you'll be homeless. Elisa asks if Max is certain about wanting her there, if he isn't ashamed of her. He confesses his love and she runs into his arms where she starts to cry. Max tells her about how scared he was of Dante and the other guy hurting her. Elisa then tells Max that she loves him too. And I don't know, I'm still not on board with this relationship. They met like 2 weeks earlier. And I still feel like Elisa is emotionally confused simply because Max helped her out of the toxic situation with Dante. And on top of that is Max reminding her that she'd be poor and homeless if she went back to London just then. Literally, nothing about this relationship is good. Thanks for listening to my book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because sometimes I drop random videos on other days too. You can like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so that you don't miss a single video. While you're waiting for the next video, you can go check out all my other videos. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book Snarks, always free and updated every morning. And if you've already read all of my main Snarks, then you can find even more Snarks on my Patreon. You can access it for $1 a month. Plus, you get early access to my main Tumblr Snark. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, you either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my Snarks so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $3 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, $3 for every 5,000 words. You can contact me on Tumblr if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have 19 erotic short stories, 1 short story collection, and 1 full-length novel. I also sometimes run flash sales on my stories, and if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you know when I might be offering more things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!